Every life is a story, every moment a chapter. Here on Slow English Stories, we pause to listen.
Welcome to English Stories for Learners.
Have you ever loved something so much that losing it felt like losing a part of yourself?
Today we have a fascinating story called The Frog King or Iron Henry.
It's a classic fairy tale, and you will learn many authentic English expressions. So listen to the end.
In a time long ago, when wishes still had power, there lived a king with many beautiful daughters. The youngest princess was so beautiful that the sun itself was astonished every time it shone on her face.
Near the king's castle, there was a great, dark forest. Deep in this forest, under the shade of an old tree, was a cool, clear well.
On very warm days, the princess loved to go into the forest and sit by the side of this well. To pass the time, she would take her favorite toy, a beautiful golden ball.
One afternoon, she threw the golden ball a little too high. It shone in the sun, but when it came down, it did not fall into her waiting hands. Instead, it bounced on the grass and rolled right into the well with a small splash. The princess looked into the water, but the well was very deep. She began to cry, and her quiet tears soon became loud sobs.
Suddenly, a voice spoke from the water. "Why are you crying, princess? Your sadness is so great it could make a stone feel sorry for you." She looked around, confused. Then she saw a thick, ugly head poking out of the water. It was a frog.
"Oh, it's you, old water splasher," the princess said, looking at the frog with dislike. "I am crying because my golden ball has fallen into the well." "Be quiet and do not weep," the frog answered. "I can help you. But what will you give me if I bring your toy back?"
The princess thought of her most valuable things. "Whatever you want, dear frog," she said quickly. "You can have my beautiful clothes, my pearls and jewels, or even the golden crown I am wearing." But the frog shook his head.
"I do not want your clothes, your pearls, or your golden crown," he said. His request was very strange. "I want you to love me. I want to be your companion and your friend. Let me sit with you at your table, eat from your little golden plate, drink from your cup, and sleep in your little bed. If you promise me this, I will bring back your golden ball."
"Yes, yes, I promise everything," she said. But in her heart, she thought, "What is this silly frog talking about?" The frog heard her promise. He put his head into the water and disappeared. A moment later, he came up again with the golden ball in his mouth and threw it onto the grass.
The princess was filled with joy. She grabbed her beautiful ball and, thinking of nothing else, began to run back to the castle. "Wait!" the frog called after her. "Take me with you. I cannot run as fast as you." But she did not listen and soon forgot all about the poor frog.
The next day, the princess was in the grand dining hall. She sat at the long table with her father, the king, and all the important people of the court. She was eating from her little golden plate, and she had completely forgotten about her promise.
Suddenly, everyone heard a strange noise. Something was coming up the marble staircase. Splish splash, splish splash. The sound stopped outside the heavy door. Then there was a knock. A voice called out, "Princess, youngest, open the door for me."
The princess stood up and ran to the door. When she opened it and saw the frog sitting there, her face turned pale with shock. She quickly slammed the door shut and ran back to her chair. Everyone could see that she was afraid. Her heart was beating fast and loud in her chest.
The king saw her fear. "My child, what are you so afraid of?" he asked. "Is there a giant outside who wants to take you away?" "Oh, no, father," she replied. "It is a disgusting frog." She told him the whole story and confessed her promise.
As she finished speaking, there was a second knock at the door, and the voice called out again. The king's face became very serious. "That which you have promised, you must do," he said in a firm voice. "Go and let him in." The princess knew she had to obey.
The princess opened the door, and the frog hopped in. He followed her step by step right to her chair. He stopped and looked up at her. "Lift me up beside you," he said.
She did not want to, but she looked at her father, and the king gave her a serious look. Once the frog was on the chair, he wanted to be on the table. Again, the king commanded her, and she lifted the wet frog onto the clean white tablecloth. "Push your little golden plate nearer to me," the frog said, "so we can eat together."
The princess pushed her plate towards him. The frog enjoyed his food, but every bite the princess tried to eat felt stuck in her throat. When he was finished, the frog said, "I have eaten and I am satisfied. Now I am tired. Carry me to your little room, make your little bed ready, and we will both go to sleep."
This was too much. The princess began to cry. She was horrified by the idea of the cold, wet frog sleeping in her pretty, clean bed. But the king saw her tears and grew angry. "He who helped you when you were in trouble," he said sternly, "should not be hated by you now."
There was no escape. The princess's face was a mask of anger and disgust. She carefully picked up the frog with just 2 fingers, as if she were touching something terrible. She carried him up the stairs to her bedroom.
Inside her bedroom, her sadness and fear turned into anger. She went to her bed, but instead of putting the frog on her pillow, she put him in a dark corner of the room. But when she was lying in her bed, the frog crept towards her. He stopped beside the bed and said, "I am tired. I want to sleep just like you. Lift me up, or I will tell your father."
This was the final moment. All her control was gone. The princess jumped out of bed, her face red with rage. "Now you will be quiet, you disgusting frog," she shouted. She grabbed him and threw him with all her strength against the stone wall.
But when he fell to the floor, he was not a frog. In a soft, magical light, he changed. Where the frog had been, a handsome prince now stood, looking at her with beautiful, kind eyes. He explained that a wicked witch had put a spell on him, turning him into a frog. Only she, the princess, could have broken the spell.
And now, by her father's will, he was to be her husband. The princess could not believe what she was seeing. The creature she hated was now a kind prince. The next morning, as the sun began to rise, they heard the sound of a magnificent carriage arriving at the castle.
A beautiful carriage, pulled by 8 white horses with white feathers on their heads, stopped in front of the castle. The horses were decorated with golden chains. Standing at the back of the carriage was the prince's loyal servant. The prince introduced him to the princess. "This is faithful Henry," he said.
He then told her Henry's amazing story. When the prince was turned into a frog, his servant was so full of sadness that he thought his heart would break. To stop his heart from bursting with grief, Henry had asked a blacksmith to put 3 strong iron bands around it. These bands were a physical sign of his pain and his loyalty.
Faithful Henry, now full of joy, helped the prince and princess into the carriage. They were going to travel to the prince's kingdom to begin their new life.
As they traveled along the road, the prince suddenly heard a loud crack from behind them. He turned and shouted, "Henry, the carriage is breaking."
"No, my lord, it is not the carriage," Henry called back. "It is one of the iron bands from my heart. It was full of pain when you were a frog in the well. Now it is breaking from happiness."
They continued on their journey, and 2 more times they heard the loud cracking sound. Each time, it was another iron band breaking from faithful Henry's heart, releasing all his old sadness. And so they rode on together, toward their new life in the prince's kingdom, their future as bright as the morning sun.
What a wonderful story about promises, transformation, and loyalty.
We hope you enjoyed it and learned some new English with us today.
Thank you for listening to English Stories for Learners.
Join us next time for another adventure.